everybody. Welcome to another episode of Head to Head Sports. I'm your host, Brian Parker, with our co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. How are you, sir?
Man, I've seen better days.
I would imagine so. In our second longest week of the NFL, again, um, I know there's a lot of different games that I definitely want to get to, but first and foremost, let's talk about your Steelers and what happened with your Steelers.
So been talking about this for a few weeks now. Keep on playing down to your competition, and eventually your competition is gonna get you. Now you could get away with the fourth quarters of the Dallas game and get away with the fourth quarters of the Ravens, but try to get away with the fourth quarter of the Washington football team, and bam, they intercept you. And then they go straight down the field and score. So it's been coming. All of the drop passes, I was surprised to find out that the Steelers wide receivers core leads the league in drop passes. They did nothing but attribute to that the other night. Also attributed to that in the Ravens loss. The Steelers leading wide receiver is also leading the team in drops. So
Wow.
Go figure there. The running game is not on par anymore. Of course, the injury to my man is not helping us too much right now. Well, it's not really an injury, but he was COVID related. James Conner. But even when Conner was in there, the running game was kind of struggling, man. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing through the grapevine that Tomlin is thinking about taking play calling responsibilities away from the OC. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm just hoping this is a wake-up call that they need before getting caught like this in the playoffs, because ain't no tomorrow in the playoffs.
Right.
We went through that
Win or
loss
go home.
to Washington. Yep. So we suck up that loss. We're 11-1 now, but we got the next game with the Bills. You do this crap in the playoffs, and there's no tomorrow. This team is too talented to be struggling against the likes of the Washington football team in the fourth quarter. So,
Do you think that any of it was they were starting to read their own press, or
yes,
maybe the whole questions about 16-0 constantly coming up wherever you go? You're in your community. Hey man, y'all go run the table.
Yep.
Does all of that start to play in your head a little bit? And maybe you get a little bit far ahead of yourself, or maybe you start looking past people because you go, man, that's just Washington. Man, who next? Man, were they looking towards Buffalo, but forgetting they had a game with Washington first to take care of?
I think that's exactly what happened, or why I'm blaming Mike Tomlin in any regard. I mean, yeah, I was on the fire Mike Tomlin tirade maybe 2 years ago when this was like a routine thing with him. But Tomlin has nothing to do with this, man. He's motivated the guys as much as he can motivate them, tries to keep them up, and from looking past individual opponents. I'm just seeing lazy play, sloppy play out there. Tomlin ain't got nothing to do with receivers dropping balls. Tomlin ain't got nothing to do with people not blocking for the run game. So, yeah, I think it was a little bit of looking ahead, not taking this Washington football team seriously and thinking, hey, we could coast a little bit, step on the gas in the fourth quarter, put them away. Well, like you and I were saying before we got on, professionals being paid on both sides of the field.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't always happen like you have it planned.
Right. And, Washington, they've got a lot on the line. They are in a position where they could potentially win the NFC least.
Yeah.
Right now, I believe it's still in the Giants' hand because their records are both 5-7. And I believe the Giants have the tiebreaker, even though I would have to check on that. Actually, let me see. I don't know. Have the Giants played Washington this year?
Pretty sure they have this deep into the season.
They played them, yes, and they won both games, barely. But yes, so they own the tiebreaker. So even if they finish with the same record, New York by default would win. But this is going to come down to what I said. It's going to probably end up being a 6-win team that makes it out of the NFC. So, we'll talk about the NFC more in a second. But yeah, as far as your Eagles, I mean, to me, hopefully, if they've learned their lesson and move forward now, maybe this takes a little bit of pressure off of them to have to do a 16-0. 15-1 ain't bad either. It's still a good record. If you win out, you'll get that first round bye. That's why this year them adding that seventh team to the mix is more important this year than in past years, because the 1 and the 2 seed will get that first round bye. Now this year it's just going to be the 1 seed. 2 got to play.
Just the 1 seed. Yep.
Just the 1 seed. So they still got something on the line and something to fight for. And I don't think anybody can catch them as far as the 1 seed. But to your point, some teams benefit from not having that bye and continuing to stay hot. So, yes, A lot of teams, they need to heal up and prepare and stuff like that. So it has different ways of working on different teams. And as a coach, you have to kind of know what works best for your team. Do we start resting them on the last game, not playing our starters the whole time, that kind of thing? So a lot of that goes into your strategy. Well, now you done lost that 1 game, so can you now really afford to sit there and do that? And he'll have to be able to make that determination. But, your Steelers now have Buffalo, as you say. They go to Buffalo. Then after that, they've got the Bengals. They go to Cincinnati. Then they have the Colts in their place, and then they go on the road to face the Baker Mayfield Browns, who from 1 week to the next, you don't know who the hell you're going to see. So, if Baker throws 4 touchdowns against the Steelers, that might do him in. I don't know, but good Baker normally is followed up by bad Baker. So, we'll find out what he does the week before the Steelers to have that determination. So it's kind of hard to tell.
A little bit worried about the Steelers on the defensive front. They're getting a lot of key injuries. Bud Dupree, huge loss.
Big time.
Torn ACL, done for the season. Right up there with TJ Watt for leading the team in sacks. That is a monstrous loss on that defensive line. So we'll have to see if our kid from UNC Charlotte, Mr. Highsmith, can step up, but he is a rookie. People will have to be patient. No sacks against who the hell they played the last time? What was the previous game? They just lost to.
The Steelers. Well, the Steelers played the Ravens before that.
No, who they just lost to. I didn't put it out my mind. It's so traumatic. I put it out my mind.
Oh, Washington.
Washington, yeah. No sacks against the Washington football team from Mr.
Right.
But we'll see what he does going forward. Going to be heavily leaned upon. That's a lot of responsibility for a rookie edge to play. So we will see, man.
Hey, I will say this, there's a lot of the end of the year awards that are still yet to be determined, but I'm going to tell you one that's probably already in the bag, and that's Comeback Player of the Year for one Mr. Alex Smith. I just don't see anybody else that's going to be able to wrestle that away from him. He actually played.
I thought you were going Roethlisberger when you said that.
Yeah, I wanted to, but the story of Alex Smith is so compelling. And he actually had a pretty darn good game against the Steelers. He only threw 46 times and hit 31 of them. He only had 296 yards. Now he only had 1 touchdown out of it. But, a lot of it was that he got another touchdown in the run game, and then they had a couple field goals. But, that's pretty good stat line for somebody that you didn't know what you were going to get after that gruesome Oh God, every time I think about that hit, it was like he ain't never gonna walk again, much less start as an NFL quarterback and have a
He
game
he
like that.
he
So
won that game for Washington. If Kyle
yes,
Allen had been in that game, we would have destroyed
yes,
the football team.
totally agree.
Uh, Alex Smith won that game for them. Gibson, their running back, he went out after 2 carries.
Yeah.
And he's carried the team the whole year.
Even if it was Haskins, say I would, yeah, you guys would have
Yeah.
obliterated them. Haskins
Yep.
would have had 3 picks
Absolutely.
easily.
Yep.
But I've seen Alex Smith do that. When Andy Reid had him in Kansas City, I thought that was the best version of him. Even in San Fran, when he was doing his thing there, I didn't think he was all that terrible. You could just tell that they wanted to move on and take Cap. So he's had some good versions of himself, and it's a lot. When you've taken an injury like that, and he went through over 17 surgeries, I believe. So sometimes it's not even physically, are you okay? It's, are you all right mentally? Every time you get hit, every time somebody
Absolutely.
knocks you to the ground now, are you worried that your leg ain't gonna let you get back up? That's got to be in your head every time. So kudos to Alex Smith, man. I just,
Yeah.
no matter how they
Getting it.
finish, to me that they've already won. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot to have to overcome, and your team's rallied around you, and there's no quit in the Washington football team. They're not an overly great team, but they have some good parts and some things to build around. They got a coach that will sit there and really rally around his players. And of course, right now, what he's going through with cancer, they rallying around him too. So it's just too good of a feel-good story for me to believe that they can go ahead and hand that man that trophy right now, because he's gonna get it one way or the other.
You're gonna
Um,
get it. And I think it's pretty much amazing the parallels between Smith and Teddy Bridgewater. Um,
mhm.
Teddy had a similar knee injury. They said there was a chance he would
Yeah.
special quarterbacks, but just very good quarterbacks
Right.
that are able to just do what they need to do in order to play ball control and win the ball games. And a lot of people don't like that. They would rather see the 300-yard games and 4 TD games, of course. But Bridgewater and Alex Smith are both right there neck and neck. Very good ball control, not going to turn the ball over quarterbacks.
Mhm.
And
Right.
those guys are winners.
That's right. They don't play out of themselves. They know what they're good at, what their strengths are. And not only do they know what their strengths are, but their coaches know what their strengths are, and they play to those strengths so that they can succeed in their offense.
Yep.
Meaning that they're not trying to make them be something. And when I think about Cam Newton early on, that's what I always saw was somebody saying, "Wait a minute, we saw this cat run in high school. We saw him run in JUCO. We saw him run in college. We saw him win national championships. Now he gets to the NFL, and we're trying to make him a pocket passer. Why? Like, do you want to add wrinkles and dimensions to the man's game? Yes, but let him do what he does best. He may not be that quarterback that
Yeah.
is Tom Brady and that makes it 20, 22 years. Maybe he's only going to give you 9 years in the league, and then his body's going to betray him because of the type of style that he ran. Barry Sanders understood that. Calvin Johnson understood that. There's other guys that played longer but may not have had as much of an impact in the shorter term of years because of the style that they played. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
okay. He's not going to be Patrick Mahomes signing some 10-year contract, and he's got a good chance of playing it all the way out. Cam wasn't designed that way, and trying to make him be that pocket passer, that stoic guy it wasn't ever going to be. Speaking of Cam, I guess I'll just run into Cam. Cam Newton is an enigma. They just beat up on the Chargers 45-0. And
Man.
and as funny as that is to say, it's even funnier when you look at the stat line. Cam passed for 69 yards. Now they did bring in Stidham in the fourth quarter, I believe, and he passed for another 61 yards. But between them, You're talking about 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Between the both of them, you're looking at 14 for 22 passing.
Dude, I don't know where you're going with this, but I'm going to tell you where I'm going with
I'm
it.
going to tell you where I'm going, but yeah, go ahead.
Bill Belichick is a freaking genius.
Genius.
And it hurts me to say that because I'm a Steelers fan. I'm diehard, and I want to say the man has cheated us in the past, and he probably has. But from a coaching aspect, for him to do this with Cam Newton, not even passing for 150 yards per game, and just use running backs and use the defense and play ball control and short passing game, for him to do this to one of the best passers in the league right now, in Herbert, who was just averaging 300 every single time he steps on the field, and Belichick shuts this guy down. I don't even know if he had 200 yards passing.
No. Let me give you this stat so that you can fully frame this genius of Belichick. So not only did they beat him 45-0, we just talked about how Alex Smith passed for 296 yards. The Patriots' total yards, passing and rushing, 291. and the Chargers, 258.
Total yards?
Total.
Wow.
Total.
Wow. Pull up the stat line for Justin Herbert when you get a chance. I'd like to hear that.
So Herbert's stat line, he threw 53 times and made 26 of them, which is right at 50%, made 49.8, whatever.
Ooh, that hurts.
209 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. Of course, no touchdowns because they had 0 points. But he threw 2 interceptions. So here's the thing.
Man.
Cam Newton has passed for 5 touchdowns this year. Cam Newton has run for 11 touchdowns this year. The player that has 1 more touchdown than him this year is Derrick Henry with 12. There's no quarter. The only other quarterback I think has more rushing touchdowns is Kyler Murray. But in comparison, Lamar Jackson, I think, has 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. I don't know if that includes that 34, 37-yarder he broke off last night. But still, Cam Newton has twice as many by far than he does. And if you ask me, dollar to a donut, am I more afraid of Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton? I'd say Lamar Jackson. But Cam Newton seems to be the one getting in the end zone more. Just saying. So I'm looking at this from a whole lot of ways. The fact that Cam Newton is possibly, if they went out now, they could have a chance. But he's not doing it with his arm. He's doing it with his legs. And a lot of that has more to do with Bill seeing what Cam's dynamic brings to the game and utilizing that.
Bingo.
Yeah. It's like he's not saying, okay, Cam, I've seen you throw 300 yards for us. I know you can do that when I need you to do that. But I just showed you a blueprint where you can throw for under 130 yards. And we beat up, and we sit there and send them home with an L without a score, 45-0. What are you going to do?
It's crazy, man. I've always heard if you give Belichick 2 weeks to prepare, he will beat any quarterback in the league. This man, I cannot believe how he shut down Herbert.
Yeah.
And if you remember, we were talking about the Patriots maybe about a month to 6 weeks ago and declared they were completely out of it.
Right.
Because of Cam Newton's performance.
Yep.
It's like Belichick looked at this guy and said, okay, he is not going to get us to where we need to be passing the ball. So I'm going to retool this entire offense to fit Cam Newton's strengths. And here we are weeks later sitting 6-6, still alive, still in the hunt. Once again, I can't stand the guy. Belichick is a mastermind of this football thing, man.
Yeah, and it's funny because what could be helping out the Patriots is some untimely losses from some other teams that we kind of thought were going to be shoe-ins. They're only a game out of Baltimore. Cleveland's starting to rise, but the Raiders are holding on for dear life, which I'll roll right into that. The Raiders very well could have been 6-6 if the Jets wouldn't have called a zero blitz on the last play of a game.
What are you doing?
All you had to do is keep them out the end zone.
What are you doing?
You decide I'm going to sit there and call everybody to Derek Carr. Huh?
You put your defensive back one-on-one against fastest receiver on the Raiders team and probably one of the fastest rookies in the league right now.
Yes.
One-on-one.
One-on-one.
What did you think was going to happen?
Knowing he was going to have to throw a Hail Mary. You play prevent.
Yes.
What in the God's name?
I saw that play.
As soon as he got that ball, I said, oh, he's fired.
Oh, yeah, he was gone.
He's fired.
He gone.
And sure enough, nah. Oh,
Monday morning, he was out of here.
I mean, I'm sitting there like, okay, on one note, I get it. You're supposed to be kind of tanking, but, act like you're trying to win. But the players are competitive. They really are trying to win.
Right.
Your organization and some of your fans may be rooting, oh, no, don't win it, back the ball, whatever, don't catch it. But, you're a player. You get played. You've been doing this since Pop Warner. You only know one thing, is to try to win the game. That's embedded in you, not to give away a game. So I don't think any of the players go in with that mentality. We as fans might be thinking that, or an organization might be having those little meetings and stuff about, hey, get the number one seed, we get Trevor Lawrence, get this Darnold kid out of here. But they had every intention of winning. And you know what? For 59 minutes and 30 seconds, I was sure they would.
That was just unbelievable.
Oh, God. Oh, God. So, yeah, the Jets are one boneheaded play away from the Raiders being 6-6. And so if the Raiders continue to slide, they could be opening up the door because right now your top 7 teams in the AFC would be the Bills, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Titans, and the Colts. And right now the Ravens are on the outside looking in at 7-5. So you got the Ravens with 5 losses. You got the Patriots with 6 losses. Now, it's still going to be kind of hard because the Pats would have to not only win out, then somebody would have to slip up. Because even if they went 10-6, you would really need the Dolphins to start to slide, or you would need the Raiders to start to slide. The Browns seem pretty hot. They only got 4 games left, and they're 9-3. I don't know how I can even say that without laughing.
Sounds like a mistake, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like a typo. It really does. And then you got the Colts and the Titans both at 8-4, so they're battling for that AFC South. So yeah, it's AFC gonna get a little shaky. I mean, you're gonna have a 10-win team possibly and not make it to the playoffs, more than likely, even with 7 in. So I don't think New England has the best chance, but they're not mathematically out of it. So, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, the Raiders really snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in that one, and the Jets pretty much just basically assured themselves of going 0-16.
Just absolutely wet the bed.
Yeah, the best chance they've had all year, and they do a Jets thing. They couldn't even get out of their own way. They did a Falcons Dallas on us. You had the game. All you had to do was do what a normal team would have done. Just like how Atlanta, all you had to do is fall on the ball in the game.
Just fall on the ball.
And you couldn't even do that. Oh God, yeah. There were some other games that just kind of made me scratch my head. But there were a lot of good games, a lot of competitive games. Detroit finally came back on Chicago, but Trubisky was actually on his best behavior in some ways. He played pretty decent. He was 26 of 34. You can't get much better than that, except for 34-34. He passed 267, had one touchdown, no picks, clean game.
Fumbled the ball though.
But he did fumble the ball. But then that's what happens. The wrong time. And normally that's the Lions' MO. That's what they normally do. Stafford can play a game, throw 367 and everything else, and then fumble the ball, throw an untimely pick, and then they lose the game. Or the late second field goal, which normally kills Detroit. But they stood up. It doesn't really help them. They're only 5-7. The Bears are 5-7. So they're both pretty much done for the year, I would imagine. Now, if they were in NFC East, they'd be tied for first place. That's the crazy thing. But,
right.
NFC North, they're not so much.
How many games in a row have the Bears lost now? Good Lord.
Exactly. And then the Colts barely beat the Texans. The Texans just aren't that good. They're relying too much on Deshaun Watson to throw them in and out of games. Of course, Fuller was out because of his suspension with the performance-enhancing drugs. But Kuti actually broke out for over 140 yards in that game. He's been silent because he's been regulated to number 3 receiver behind Cooks and Fuller. So he actually got a little shine, but same result. It was just another loss. The shocker of the year. The shocker of the year.
Was that?
The Giants and the Seahawks.
Man, nobody saw that one coming either. But that Giants defense is a lot better than people.
It had to be because it wasn't because of Colt McCoy. He set the world on fire. Colt McCoy, 13 for 22, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception.
Garbage.
Played Cam Newton-ish. But Wayne Gallman busted out for 16 rushes for 135 yards. Alfred Morris had 39 more yards. And then a couple of other players had a few other single-digit yards. So by far, rushing was their biggest thing. It definitely wasn't the receiving. But still, to beat the Seahawks, Russell Wilson had 263 yards passing. He threw 43 times, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. But he's really cooled off. The first 5 games of the season, Russ had over 13 touchdowns. Russ was throwing 370 plus, sometimes 400 yards a game. But they've become a lot one-dimensional. They run the ball okay. Chris Carson is finally back. But Russell had 45 rushing yards. Chris Carson had 65. So Russ is having to try to do a lot. And I don't really know what's going on. He's got some of the same cast of character. He's got DK Metcalf. He's got Tyler Lockett. Disley, his tight end, is still there. DJ Dallas, the new kid, is doing his thing. David Moore still on the team. So I'm not really sure what's wrong with Seattle, where they can't score but 12 points in a game against the New York Football Giants.
Yeah. This league is just really crazy from week to the next.
Any given
how
Sunday.
Some teams get up at a high level, and then other teams just seem to kind of calm it down, lay down, or don't even show up sometimes. But the NFC East, to me, is going to be very – and I know the team suck, but it's going to be very interesting how this plays out over the next 4 weeks of the season or 3 weeks of the season, however long we got left.
I'm going to be honest with you. Whoever has to play them in the playoffs, you better come play.
You better show up. Exactly.
You better show up.
Because they could catch you. And
I think
the Giants catching Seahawks.
I think what Washington did and what New York did is a shout to the rest of the league. When we see you in the playoffs, don't go ahead and chalk it. you better come play.
Records. Yeah, kind of like prime time, man. Records out the window.
Yeah, we 0-0 in the playoffs.
Playoffs, we 0-0. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So both of the Giants' defense, the Giants and Washington football teams, both of their defenses are sneaky good.
Yeah.
Good enough to beat Seattle, good enough to hold Pittsburgh to 17, or whatever they had. So look for them in the playoffs. I think it's going to be crazy how it shakes out these coming weeks, especially with now I'm hearing, Carson Wentz is benched, and we got my man.
Yeah.
What's his name? Love up in the game,
Hurts.
man. So,
Jalen Hurts.
Hurts, my fault. Hurts up in the game. So that off kind of instantly woke up under Hurts. Kind of like the Falcons woke up after Quinn was out of here. So we're gonna see how this shakes out over the next couple of weeks.
How do you feel like this is temporary, or barring injury, we've seen the last of Carson Wentz for the year?
I think for the year, Wentz is done, man. I really do. And I could be wrong about that, but to me, he looks like damaged goods. This guy has been beat up over the last 2+ seasons. And when I see him in the pocket now, it reminds me of, and I don't know if you remember Derek Carr's time.
Big time.
Okay.
Mr. Good, Mickey Mouse White Gloves? Absolutely.
Yes. Yep. Derek Carr was a fantastic back for the Texans.
Oh, you're talking about David?
David, sorry.
Yeah, David, yeah.
David. He got hit so many times, though. By the time we got him, this guy was literally collapsing in the pocket.
Deer in the headlights. He started throwing the ball before anybody got close to him.
Yes. And that's that PSTD of just being hit multiple times, and now you can't relax in the pocket anymore. I'm seeing a lot of that with Carson Wentz. I am.
I'm seeing a lot of that with Tom Brady.
Brady for real? Yeah. Yep.
Brady's so used to getting the ball out of his hands so quick that when he see that interior rush come at him, because he knows he can't roll out, he just start throwing it to the ground. I'm like, what? or he'll try to throw it to Fournette, and people will clown on Fournette or Rojo because they're dropping his passes. But if you look, he's throwing behind him. He ain't throwing it straight to him. So they're running, and then he throws it, and they go, oh, he just threw the ball. And they're trying to gather themselves and come back to the ball.
Yeah.
And so now you want the running back to do what receivers can do a lot of times by stop and then go back and get the ball. And they don't do that. They're straight, they're downfield runners that now you're using as safety valves when the rush gets to you too quick. But now you want them to be able to stop on a dime and come back. And that's not their game. So, but I see that in Brady a lot, where he hear them feet coming, he throw the ball away.
Yeah,
he's throwing the ball away too. So yeah, it's funny to see that Wentz looks like he's damaged. That he's going to probably have to go somewhere else. But the problem is who's going to take on that contract?
That money, man, that is a major issue. I don't know how they're going to do that. He's
Can't cut him.
Not putting together the best film in order to get people very interested. So the Eagles have a problem going forward, especially if Hurts comes out and starts balling. Then you're going to have an issue kind of like our hometown boys, the Charlotte Hornets, and paying Batum big-time starter money, but he ain't producing big-time starter points. So you got to put your big-time starter on the bench. And that never sits well with a lot of folks, but hey,
well,
might have to do that with
like
Wentz.
Batum's gone now.
Yeah, Batum's gone.
Wentz is probably going to end up gone at some point, but that's going to be tricky because they're going to have to figure out how to do this whole compensation because they're on the hook for a lot of money. But yeah, I saw that and I was just like, yeah. He's done. When they started signaling that Hurts was taking more first-team reps, at that point I was pretty much like, okay, but then you're still gonna start Wentz, but then you end up yanking him, and you gave Hurts more reps because you kind of in the back of your mind knew you was probably gonna have to pull him. He wasn't gonna play that whole game. You knew when you were giving Hurts those reps, there was a good chance he wasn't going to finish that game anyway. So Peterson knew what he was doing. He's just trying to find that fine line to walk between trying to sit down his starter and further damage his confidence, but say, hey, I need to get a spark from my team. This young kid coming in, they seem to pep up different. They walk up to the line and get in position better when he's under center. So I got to be able to see what I got with this kid. And because it doesn't look like we're going to be really that good going forward, or it doesn't look like we're going to get into the playoffs, might as well go ahead and see what we got now. And that looks like that's what they just decided to do.
And the young kids got the legs to escape that pressure that Wentz just doesn't have. So it was the right move. I feel kind of bad for Carson. Like I said, he just looks like a player that's been through a lot. And we'll see. Time will tell if he recovers or never does. We'll see.
Absolutely. And finally, for the past week, let's see, we had the Chiefs play the Broncos. I thought that was going to be a snoozer, but that was actually a harder game for the Chiefs than I expected. Seems like everybody is giving the Chiefs their best, when they play them. But again, it wasn't from the quarterback. Drew Lock, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 15 of 28 for 151 yards. Is the day of the 300-yard passing quarterback dead? You're seeing a lot of pedestrian numbers where quarterback isn't, but that's to what you said earlier about Bridgewater. Not flashy, he ain't gonna now, but not also true in some ways, because I've seen Teddy throw 250-yard games, almost nearly 300-yard games, and the team do come close to winning and stuff like that. But there's a lot of quarterbacks out there not named Bridgewater, not named Lamar Jackson, not named Cam Newton, that are in the same boat. They're throwing sub 200-yard games, and their teams are still in positions to win the game. We're seeing a lot more with the rushing. Melvin Gordon, formerly of the Chargers, ran for 131 yards in that game. And if you know anything about the Chiefs, you know that they have an explosive offense, but you could rerun through their defense, and he's going to get about 10, 15 yards for the catching.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the visual alone just kind of got me right there. Watch rerun. But hey, but really, you can run through their defense, almost like running through Dallas's defense, like they kept doing last night. The Chiefs are the same way. It's just that their offense is so explosive that a lot of times, if you want to have a shootout, they'll have a shootout with you. If you want to have a close game, Andy Reid will figure out a way to score just enough points to win that game. And that's what he ended up doing with Denver.
The Chiefs are guilty of also letting off the gas a lot.
They do.
And not putting opponents away. So it hadn't caught them yet. And they're too talented really to really be caught, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. So just a little bit of something to ponder about going forward as we head into these playoffs.
They do. They do. They scored 22 points in the game, but to your point, 19 of those points were done in the first 3 quarters. They only scored 3 points in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Now, the Broncos did worse. They didn't score any in the fourth quarter, but it was a tighter game. It was 19-16 at the end of 3.
Broncos had a chance.
They had a chance.
Had never been in that game, but they were in that game come the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting to see these big-time powerhouse teams like let off the gas and think they could take it over in the fourth quarter. In Kansas City, they've proven that they can. Pittsburgh, though, you're not Kansas City, man.
Right. Your margin of error is a lot tighter than Kansas City because of the drop ball problem, for one, because of the fact that if your receivers aren't catching, it's not like you can then go lean on your running game. Everything has to be really cranking for this to really move. When everything is cranking, it moves great. It's a very great dynamic team. But when it's not cranking like that, then you can get exposed. And that's what happened against Washington football team.
Yep. And as great as Big Ben is, his last name is not Mahomes. So
That is true. All
yes.
right. So this week coming up, and it's funny to say, but it's week 14,
Wow. Week
which
14.
also means we've been doing the show for a lot of weeks now. So
Have
yeah,
been,
yeah,
man.
we've been getting it.
It's been a
Um,
good
I, I
experience.
I've been teasing out to folks that had come NBA time, and I did a Instagram live last night and teased out a possible NBA show, and there were 3 people that were just resoundingly happy about it, and all 3 were female, and that was just very interesting. So I might have to really consider an NBA show after the season, but before the season is over, we're not over just yet. Um, that we're entering into week 14, so it's really nut cutting time. So what games do you have on your week 14 list of must see? What's your must see games this week?
You know what? I got one game and I got a situation just to keep an eye on. Just a situation. I'll go to the game first. My game is, of course, Pittsburgh Buffalo
Yeah.
in prime time. I want to see how the Steelers bounce back. Buffalo cannot be slept on or taken for granted. You saw how they just mashed their team, the 49ers, the other night.
Yep.
And
y'all are going to Orchard Park. Yep. You're going to them.
Josh Allen put up big time numbers in that game. So Steelers
Cole
got
Beasley.
Yeah, Beasley just a double-digit catch star all of a sudden. So I want to see if the Steelers could bounce back, play their A game, and see where we go. The situation that I want to keep an eye on, this was very interesting. During the Ravens-Cowboy game, the pregame, Dez Bryant pulled from the game.
Yeah.
Test positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Now,
he quits the NFL.
In practice situations where players that have tested positive and they are around other individuals with no mask on, those practices are instantly shut down. That game went on. If you watch the pregame show with Dez out there warming up, no mask, he was dapping up Cowboys, hugging Ravens. Multiple players were exposed to him. The NFL said no problem. Game can go on. So, okay, if there's a COVID outbreak, we're going to know where it came from. Just a situation to keep a little eye on.
Yeah, I bet Denver's watching that real close.
Yeah.
They doing this.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you made us play with no quarterbacks.
Allowed the Ravens Cowboy game in prime time to go on. Nationally televised money, though.
Well, here's the thing, too, and you're right. Dez had received 2 inconclusive tests. So normally, if you have 2 inconclusives, they treat you as if it's positive.
Not supposed to be out there anyway.
He's supposed to be out there anyway.
Nope. So ponder that one.
That don't make any sense. Yeah, he should have never been. So somebody dropped the ball in the protocol. I'm sure that's going to be investigated, but it'll be after the fact. The game has been won. You can't, what you going to do, take the win away? I mean, so some protocols got dropped, and yes, I agree with that situation. I have another situation, and that is definitely the Eagles and the Saints. The Saints have to come to Philadelphia. I am going to go ahead and tell you a secret that nobody else knows. The Eagles will win that game.
Okay. You putting it out there like that?
I'm putting it out there like that. Fly, Eagles, fly. I don't even think it's going to be close.
Dude, that is a bold call. That's as bold as any stuff I've ever put on this show.
Some huge ones.
That's
I need both hands to hold those up. Those are huge.
That's bowling ball.
That's bold. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the Saints, as much as they continue to win, are not winning in a way that's making me go, they're dominant. It's just the other teams just don't have it. They're not beating, they're not overly just, and again, I think a lot of it is they're doing the same thing as the Steelers. They're playing down to the competition. And if you look at the Eagles' record, it would be very easy for you to go, wait a minute, we're first place in the NFC South. We're playing this team that's can't even win the NFC East. Their quarterback is a head case. They had to bench him. We got this new guy who we have very limited tape on. All we know is what he did in college. This team seems to rally around him, but we don't know what effect that's going to have. But he's playing in a familiar environment. He's at home. Of course, there's not going to be a whole lot of fans, if any. But still, a lot of those things, they got to travel to us. We're going to have a game plan where we're going to try to insinuate Jalen's strengths that they haven't seen. Now people have tape on Taysom Hill. They know that there's a good chance that when he takes that ball from under center, he's going to run with it. They're going to stack the box. They're going to do a lot of different things. They're going to send a spy on him. Hopefully, if Jalen exercises, hey, I don't need to stay in that pocket. I can do a bunch of rollouts. I can do some check downs. I can find my tight end. Hell, I guarantee he's going to take off running. He's going to break one for over 20.
Oh, absolutely.
He's going to use his legs.
Yeah,
I think when you have all those dynamics deep into a season where now you're playing a quarterback and you don't know anything about him because he's played very sparingly, he's going to get you. He's going to get you.
Yep. Well, to your point, like I was saying before, that offense instantly woke up when he was put into the game. So we'll see. That's bold, though. That's bold.
And now he's had, I know it is. And now he's had a whole week to not only take first-team reps, but probably as the starter, he's taking 90% of them, if not more than that. So now there's even more familiarity with working with the center, change-offs, knowing where the receivers like those balls at. And they got something to prove. They're going to rally around Jalen because it seems like they really like him. They don't really care for Carson. That's just kind of been the word about him. They don't really like him like that. When they plugged in Nick Foles, and you see Nick Foles can be hot and cold in the same game, they love Nick Foles. They rallied around him, and Nick ain't the most dynamic person either. So I think it really depends who your quarterback is a lot of times, how much you get out of your team. That should be a game worth watching. The Pats play the Rams tomorrow. They stayed out in Arizona to get ready for this game. So they will be playing the Rams tomorrow. They're coming out that 45-0 over the Chargers. Can they get the Rams the same way? Well, who knows? Bill Belichick will game plan the Rams separately than he did the Chargers, but it should still be a really good game either way. And then the Jets go to Seattle to beat the Seahawks for 59 minutes and 30 seconds and then call a zero blitz at the end of the game. I foresee that happening.
Only the Jets would be dumb enough to do it again.
I still can't get a zero blitz. Wow.
If that ain't the most techno
I wouldn't even do that on Madden.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Talking about having some balls. That's a lot right there. All right, sir. Any other predictions before we head out?
No, man. Think that about covers it. But just back to my point on, what you were kind of saying about Hurts. That race to the end of the NFC East winner is going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch. Especially now with Philly having to win and with Hurts up in there bringing so much new life to the offense. Giants will rely on their defense. Maybe they get Jones back, maybe not. And Smith will continue to do what he does with the football team, but Gibson is injured. So just a bunch of dynamics to go to see who wins that division. Only thing we do know in that division is how about them ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, so Gibson has turf toe. If Gibson doesn't play, McKissick is not a bad back. They may be able to plug him in and be able to at least have a semblance of a running game so that you're not
Yeah,
putting all the pressure on Smith to have to manufacture yards and keep you from having a bunch of 3-and-outs and stuff like that. So I think that's a big injury, but I think that their backup running back is pretty good. So I think out of the teams in the NFC least, my money right now is on the team that don't have a name. So
that's
see how that
my
goes.
that's my pick too. My pick too.
And I'm going to also give the edge to coaching. Out of
Yeah,
all 4 teams, I'm going to have to give it to Ron Rivera right now because,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
if everything else is equal, coaching is going to probably be the thing that pushes them over. Situational coaching,
Yep.
Field position, things like that. Ron Rivera is big on field position. Live to fight another day, pin them back, let your defense work it out, and keep playing it that way. Even if we got to kick 5 field goals and win that game by 3, that's what we're going to do. That's Ron's game.
Yep.
So,
And I
yeah.
know we're short on time and we're kind of running out of time right now, but as far as the coaching in the East, we'll save this for the next show. I am so glad the Panthers stayed away from Mike McCarthy. And we'll pick up with that
Woo!
come next week.
Sometimes, and you know what? I'm gonna add on that before we out. I was one of the biggest skeptics, and probably a lot of it was I hated to see Ron go like that, unceremoniously, and then see Cam kind of go the same way unceremoniously. So even though the Panthers are my hometown team, I had a lot of built-up frustration with the way that they did people. Steve Smith was kind of kicked out unceremoniously by Dave Gettleman. Josh Norman was kicked out the same way. So some of those things started kind of bubbling up inside of me. And I'm like, you know what? They my hometown team, but they starting to really piss me off. So then they go and get this college coach, no NFL experience. His offensive coordinator just came from LSU. And I'm like, what the heck are y'all trying to lose? And then to see these guys play the most non-conventional at times and be successful at it, not afraid to take chances and not scared of their own shadow or what people are going to say about them on WFNZ on Monday morning, Chris McClain, and worry about all of that, Mac, and just go and do what they get paid to do. And I've been thoroughly impressed.
I have too.
There's some losing seasons where I'd be like, I'm not watching any games because all they're going to do is lose. But I make sure that by 12:55, I'm in a good position to watch this game because I'm going to see some good things happen, even whether they win or not. I'm going to see some good things happen.
I hope we can make a note of this to continue this talk next week about coaches and coordinators, because there's a lot I want to give kudos to. One of the coaches I want to give kudos to is our own right here in our backyard, Carolina's coach and their coordinators.
Yes.
But when we talk about this next week and pick up, Mike McCarthy, top of the list for one of the worst coaches.
Yes.
There.
Topic should be Mike McCarthy. One and done?
We'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, as always, sir, thank you very much to everybody else. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us on Head to Head. And you guys stay safe. And as always, wear a damn mask.